Foreign Affairs Committee and on the Financial Services Committee, where he helps oversee sanctions policy. Congressman Barr, thank you very much for joining us. I don't know if you were able to hear some of these parents speaking right now, but it has to go straight to one's heart, to your heart, because they were speaking like any other parent. What is your sense right now of what's happening in Ukraine?
Well, as a parent myself, it is totally heartbreaking. It's barbaric what's happening, and really one can describe what's happening as war crimes. Those are the reports that we are receiving as well, and what the world is witnessing is something we haven't seen since World War II, which is a full-scale invasion by land, air, sea, through cybersecurity and missiles, an invasion of a sovereign, democratically elected country, government and a country. And again, this is the largest military mobilization and invasion of a sovereign country since World War II. I agree with my Democrat colleague and friend that we need to hear from President Biden a forceful position in solidarity with the Ukrainian resistance, but we need more than forceful speaking. We need a stronger set of actions, both in terms of support for the Ukrainian resistance with arms and weapons, small arms support, ammunition, anti-armor, anti-aircraft Stinger missiles, which have not been delivered in the quantity needed. These Ukrainians are fighting literally with broomsticks and kitchen knives and Molotov cocktails. What they need are weapons. What they need are Stinger missiles in order to counter the significant firepower of Putin's war machine. And then on the sanctions front, we're glad that the Treasury Department has imposed sanctions on Russian banks and the Russian Central Bank. We appreciate the Europeans leading on reimposing those sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and we're glad that the Biden administration has followed suit after they waived those sanctions, removing the important deterrence that those sanctions provided. But what we need now is more forceful sanctions that deal with this energy loophole. The problem with the sanctions, Judy, right now is that there is a general license to all energy-related transactions. That's where Putin gets most of his foreign currency reserves, which is literally financing this war effort. We need to close that loophole, and I'm hoping the president will announce that tonight.
Well, let me bring you first back to the call for more weapons to be provided. They would have to be defensive weapons, as we understand it, because of NATO restrictions. We know that they are already being provided Stinger missiles, other weaponry by not just the United States and NATO. What exactly more are you saying they need?
Well, they're asking for more weapons. The Ukrainian Prime Minister, the President Zelensky, asking for more lethal defensive weapons, those Stinger missiles, anti-aircraft, anti-armor, more javelins, more small arms. We need to provide them with defensive small arms. And we were asking for this during the mobilization. This was an 8-month mobilization of Russian troops on the border of Ukraine, not just in the Donbass, but also the exercises that were happening in the north, in Belarus, and also in the Crimea. We knew this was coming. Putin telegraphed this. We were calling for those Stinger missiles. Now, when they're under siege, it's harder to get those weapons to the Ukrainian resistance. So we're pushing for more of that. And again, we need tougher sanctions. We need to close these loopholes.
What evidence do you see, Congressman, that the sanctions that are being imposed, and I think everyone agrees these are the harshest sanctions yet to be imposed on Russia, are having any deterrent effect on Vladimir Putin?
Well, clearly these sanctions alone were not deterring Putin, but one of the reasons is that we waived sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. The Biden administration waived those sanctions. I was the author of the legislation that authorized those sanctions. Those sanctions were put into place. Construction on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was halted and then waived last May. That was a green light for Putin to invade, because the construction of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline enabled Putin to continue to send Russian gas to continental Europe, and he didn't need the pipelines that went through the Ukraine. Fortunately, those sanctions have been reimposed. But again, one of the ways in which Putin is financing this war effort is through the energy transactions, the energy sales. And frankly, the United States continues to this day, post-invasion, to be importing over 500,000 barrels of Russian oil every day. That is revenue of up to over $60 million a day. And so in effect, until we block those imports, we continue, the United States and our allies in Europe continue to finance this war effort. We need to stop that. And as Russia draws down on the hard currency that they have in their central bank, we don't need to have a faucet of foreign hard currency flowing into that country.
So just to quickly wrap this up, you're saying the United States is in part enabling what Vladimir Putin is doing?
Yes, because we're continuing, even to this day, post-invasion, we are purchasing oil from Russia. We need to immediately suspend that. We need to apply sanctions to energy-related transactions and stop the flow of Russian oil into the United States and into Europe. And that is where we can really have an effect on the Russian economy. Furthermore, we need to replace that Russian oil with domestically produced American energy. The best way that we can counter Russian aggression here is to unleash domestic energy production, reverse the policies of the Biden administration constraining the supply, the domestic supply of energy, not just Keystone XL pipeline, but production of and exploration of energy on federal lands and more leasing, and also ending financial regulators, weaponizing financial regulation to redirect capital away from American energy companies. That's happening under the Biden administration's policies. I'm hoping tonight that President Biden reverses course so that we can become energy dominant once again. That's the best way that we can help our allies in the Ukraine and in Europe in countering Russian aggression and deterring further aggression from Russia.
Congressman Andy Barr of Kentucky, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And now